want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Raycon wireless earbuds. Two of my favorite features of Raycon's earbuds is the 32 hours of battery life and the active noise cancellation. You also get 90 minutes of use from only 10 minutes of charging. Raycon's quality is right up there with the biggest names in premium audio. Now is the perfect time to get a pair or two if you have not already. I keep this pair here at my desk for the work that I do. I keep another pair in my gym bag for exercising. Raycon's prices are so competitive. You can get two pair of Raycons for what you would normally pay for one pair of some of the other big name tech brands. Use my custom link buyraycon.com/SPTV to get 20% off Raycon's everyday earbuds. One of the best ways to support this channel is by supporting our sponsors. So when you get your Raycons, remember to use my custom link buyraycon.com/SPTV. Somehow my mic was muted. All right, that makes me want to make sure that I even have the right mic selected. Yes, I do. Okay, welcome back, everybody, for more SPTV, where every day is a great day not to be in a cult. Speaking of not being in a cult, let's talk about Clearwater, Florida, and the Clearwater, Florida City Council members who have voted to, for no obvious reason, sell a street to Scientology for $1.3 million. This is a subject you are going to hear a little bit more about on this channel over the next several weeks and possibly several months, mainly because it has become completely obvious that the only reason Scientology is trying to buy this street is to restrict protesting. Even the mayor of Clearwater, in the city council meeting where they've discussed this once already, said he's been given no explanation by Scientology for why they actually need or want the street. There's 5 city council members. That includes the mayor. Clearwater has a council manager form of government. So the mayor of Clearwater doesn't have any more power really than the other 4 council members. And the mayor does not run the city of Clearwater. The city council hires a city manager who runs the city day to day. You could consider the council to be the board of directors and the city manager to be the CEO of the city. That's how this works. Yes, in the city council meeting where they discussed this, the mayor explained that Scientology hasn't even explained why they want this street. And yet 3 of the 5 council members voted to sell Scientology this street, even though Scientology is giving nothing in return strategically. They're just paying some money for the street. Okay, so the title of today's video is Elected Official Defies Her Scientology Puppet Masters. This video is about City Council member Lena Teixeira. Now, when Lena Teixeira won her election for Clearwater City Council, I did a video explaining how Scientology now had the Clearwater's political establishment exactly where it had wanted to get it for decades. Lena Teixeira was the first city council member in the city of Clearwater to ever win her election by a margin smaller than the number of Scientologists who voted for her. In the past, Scientology has told its members who to vote for. And in the past, usually the candidate that Scientology wants to win wins, but not because of Scientology support. In every case previously, Scientology basically just hobby horses and tells the members to vote for the person who they think is going to win. City council elections historically have not been very competitive at all. Oftentimes people run unopposed. And in every case previously, the candidate who won would have won their election even without any Scientologists voting for them. There's less than 3,000 voting Scientologists in the entire city. There's 120,000 plus residents of the city of Clearwater. Lena Teixeira was, once again, the first person to ever in the city of Clearwater win her election by a margin smaller than the number of Scientologists who voted for her. By the way, that's because she was running against me. That's the main reason all the Scientologists were told to vote for her. And so after the election, I went to the Clearwater City Council and I made the following speech. Here it is. I hope you guys can hear it okay. Let me see it. I think it's all selected. Yes, here it is.
Last month, for the first time in Clearwater's history, a city council candidate endorsed by Scientology won their election with a margin small enough that the Scientology vote itself was the determining factor in the outcome of the election. I'm referring, of course, to Lena Teixeira. 2 years ago, Scientology told all of its members to vote for Kathleen Beckman and Frank Hibbert. Last month, Scientology told all of its members to vote for David Albritton and Lena Teixeira. David Miscavige now has Clearwater's political establishment exactly where he's been trying to get you for decades, which is completely beholden to keeping Scientology happy in order to retain power, which is why I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that Clearwater citizens and voters keep that in mind, while Mayor Hibbard and David Albritton and Lena Teixeira go around extolling the virtues of partnering with a human trafficking cult to redevelop downtown Clearwater.
Okay, yes, that was back when Kathleen Beckman was still on the city council. She resigned her seat to run for mayor and then lost, so she's out of the picture. This was back when Frank Hibbard was still mayor. He resigned in the middle of his term because he wasn't getting his way. He said, "I'm going to take my ball and I'm going to go home." So Kathleen Beckman is out. Frank Hibbard is out. David Albritton is still on the council. He voted to sell the street to Scientology. And Lena Teixeira is still on the council, and she voted not to sell the street to Scientology. And that's why the title of this video is Elected Official Defies Her Scientology Puppet Masters. Okay, so I'm going to show you the speech that Lena gave at the city council meeting where she explained why she was voting no. She got a big round of applause after her speech. I did not play her section of the speech in the last video that I did about this for my own reasons. But I'm changing that today, which is why I'm doing this video. Okay, so first, let's talk about what are we talking about? Why is there a street for sale? Why does Scientology want to buy a street? There wasn't a street for sale, by the way. Scientology just came to the city and said, we sure would like this street. Let me just show you guys what we're talking about here. Scientology is building a project or plans to, let me go full screen on this, called L. Ron Hubbard Hall, right smack dab in the middle of downtown Clearwater, right next to their biggest Scientology building in the world called the Superpower Building. This is what L. Ron Hubbard Hall is supposed to look like, at least one of the renderings. You see that little street in the front of L. Ron Hubbard Hall? That's the street that is currently a public street, but they would like to buy it. Here is another view of it. So you'll see that in the foreground, there's a property that Scientology owns that they're going to put a bunch of landscaping on. Then there's the street. Then there's L. Ron Hubbard Hall. That street, this project is able to move forward whether Scientology owns that street or not. That street is a public street. There's no reason for Scientology to own it. It does not, whether they own that or not, it is not a determining factor in whether they can construct this project or not. I'll give you another image of this. Once again, in the foreground, you see the landscaping, then you see the street, then behind the street, you see L. Ron Hubbard Hall. I'm going to show you guys another image of this. Okay, right in the center of your screen, that is a bird's eye view of the Superpower Building, as they call it. Across the street from the Superpower Building is the Fort Harrison Hotel. These are two of the key properties that Scientology owns in downtown Clearwater. Just south of the Superpower Building, you have these two big empty lots separated by a street. I'm going to show you a different view of this so that everyone can know exactly what we're talking about. Okay, the lot that you see in red, that is where L. Ron Hubbard Hall will be. The lot that you see circled in green, that is where all that landscaping will be. The street that you see in blue, that is what is currently a very public street that Scientology does not need to own, that runs between L. Ron Hubbard Hall and all of the landscaping that's going to be in front of it. On the south side of this image, you'll see it says Court Street. That is the single busiest artery running through Clearwater, especially downtown Clearwater. You will see that they want to buy a street that is one of the entryways from the main artery in Clearwater into the downtown sector. Okay. Now let's go back to this other map. Just for fun, I'll zoom out so you guys can see how this location compares to beautiful Clearwater Beach. To the west, you have the causeway. You go over the causeway, you get to beautiful Clearwater Beach. North Beach is north of the causeway. South Beach is south of the causeway. And then you get back over here to downtown Clearwater. Court Street is literally the major artery that goes right over to the beach. Okay. Let's see. What else do I want to show you guys here? Yeah. So just realize Scientology does not need the street. And after I show you Lena's speech, I'm going to show you the mayor of Clearwater saying they haven't even explained to us why they want it. Now, guys, why in the world would 3 out of 5 council members vote to sell this street to Scientology if Scientology hasn't even explained why they need it? It doesn't even make any sense. And that's why we are not going to leave this alone. Okay, the next thing that I want to share with you is probably Lena's speech, which begins at 1:43:27, and we are ready to go. I'm going to play this at 1 1/4 speed. Let me share the right one. Here we go.
Councilwoman Dictionary.
Well, let me begin by saying that I don't perceive this to be the typical run-of-the-mill vacation request. It does not fall under the most common, which is vacating easements for utilities. It is not vacating an alley in a residential area, a corner lot in an open field, or a small strip of land in the middle of private property. What we're talking about is a public street, one of which I use every day. A public street that offers parking and revenue and generates revenue. And it also happens to be smack in the middle of our downtown. The privatization of this road goes against our very own downtown plan, which I believe our planning department can attest to. Now, over the last several years, I'm proud to say that the city leadership has initiated an aggressive and creative multi-pronged revitalization plan that includes, but is not limited to, the building of the award-winning Baycare Sound, the award-winning Coachman Park, the development of the Bluffs, which will add 400 new apartments, 158 key hotel, and a parking garage. We have recently sent an RFI for a public-private partnership with an art institution to activate a portion of the library. We will be adding to our small inventory of brick and mortar businesses with mobile vendors. We are collaborating with St. Pete College School of Business and Arts for a student-based entrepreneurial initiative. And just 1 or 2 blocks east of this said road, we are building a municipal campus centered around our new city hall, and next to that, the PSDA Intermobile Center. And last but certainly not least, we're working closely with the county to redevelop 14 plus properties. So in reference to one of the citizens who mentioned it right before, in essence, we are building or rebuilding Rome, and we're being asked to remove a road that leads to it. Now, having lived and worked in downtown for many years, I believe I have a grasp and true understanding of the challenges that our downtown has and continues to face. And it all boils down to balance or lack thereof. Our downtown has a disproportionate amount of institutional use, semi-private and restricted use, vacant lots and vacant storefronts, as well as nonprofits. Balance is crucial in maintaining health in any entity, whether we're talking about the economy and the precarious position we might find ourselves by being reliant heavily on one industry. We've all witnessed how diminished numbers of a specific species can play havoc in the ecosystem and the environment, and even the human body. We have all felt the ill effects of when our body is out of balance. This is also true of a downtown. A vibrant downtown must have the right balance of residents, businesses, entertainment, services, and accessibility. The privatization of this road further exacerbates this imbalance. So this vacation request as it stands is not something that I can support. However, and this is what the discussions that I was conveying to the city manager, I would support it if it was accompanied with an activation agreement. At the very least, an initiative that would neutralize this further imbalance. I understand that the Church of Scientology needs this road to encapsulate their large project, but our downtown needs activation.
Notice she said to encapsulate their large project. I don't actually know what she means by that. Scientology is not actually talking about closing down the road. That's what makes this interesting, right? I'm sorry to interrupt her. I'm going to get back to her speech right where we left off, but I want to point out something, that because this, let me find the right one. Okay, here we are. Because this road is smack dab between 2 public streets, like literally closing the street down would prevent anyone from being able to pull right up to L. Ron Hubbard Hall. So, or L. Ron Hubbard Hall. So they're not going to physically block off the street. They're not going to turn it into a pedestrian street. They're not going to turn it into a walking street. They're not going to close it down. They just want to own it, right? They want to own it. It doesn't mean they're going to close it down. So what that means is they're going to allow it to be a public thoroughfare, but because it will be private property that they are simply allowing everyone to use, they will be able to restrict protesters from protesting on the sidewalks of that street because the entire thing will be private. So when she says, I understand they need it to encapsulate their project, I don't know what Lena actually means by that, but I just wanted to at least share that. Okay, let's go back to her. And here we go.
I don't believe this to neutralize this further imbalance. I understand that the Church of Scientology needs this road to encapsulate their large project, but our downtown needs activation. I don't believe the sale price of 1.3 million will move the needle. High impact, open access to all, activation does. For example, for over a decade, I've been hearing about a family entertainment center, whether it's a movie theater, bowling alley, or an amusement center.
Let me jump in here. By the way, when she says for over a decade, I've been hearing about what she means is for over a decade, Scientology has been telling Clearwater's elected leadership, if you will just give us some of the properties that we want, we are going to build a giant downtown family entertainment complex with Tom Cruise, movie theaters, bowling alleys, restaurant, shops. We're going to build it. Scientology's been saying this forever. That's what Lena is talking about. And here's what's interesting. If Scientology wanted to develop downtown Clearwater, they would develop downtown Clearwater. If Scientology and Scientologists actually wanted it for its own sake, it would already be done. And this is why I wish these public officials would be more aware of the ways in which they're being played. The fact that every good thing Scientology could do real estate-wise and development-wise for downtown Clearwater is something they dangle in front of the council members for, well, we would like to do this, but what's our incentive? If we don't get anything in return, maybe we just won't do it. Well, if you just won't do it, that means you don't want to do it. It almost betrays the fact that there's no Scientologists in downtown Clearwater. There really aren't. Scientology would like everyone to believe there's 15,000 Scientologists that actually live in Clearwater. There's actually less than 4,000 Scientologists in all of Tampa Bay, never mind Clearwater itself. So if there were enough, if there was many Scientologists in Clearwater, Scientology claims, Scientology would build these things for its members. But they don't build these things because they know there are no members to use these things. It would basically be a favor to the greater community at large. But Scientology doesn't care about the greater community at large. Okay, yeah, that is the entertainment complex that she's talking about. Okay, let's go back to it.
That all activation does. For example, for over a decade, I've been hearing about a family entertainment center, whether it's a movie theater, bowling alley, or an amusement center. That would move the needle. That would enable both parties to walk away with something that they need. Now, like any agreement that a government body enters into, it would have to be in writing. That is standard practice. All our agreements with various entities are in writing, like Amplify. In those agreements, we even include hours of operation. With Baycare Sound, we include metrics such as number of events. We've even gone so far as to discuss restroom supplies. So to recap, I will not be supporting this vacation request as I feel that this exacerbates the imbalance we have. However, I will be open to it if it is in conjunction with a written activation agreement, which must include a high impact and open access initiative. Now, with all that aside, I'm still left with questions, and I have deep concerns about the negative impact on our maneuverability and access when all our initiatives finally come to fruition. Questions like, how will this impact the PSTA, the bus queues, the travel grid, the city hall? How will it impact our downtown when we have finally added all the residents, businesses, and visitors we are trying so hard to bring in? I simply do not believe this vacation request as it stands benefits Clearwater residents and visitors.
Okay, good. That was Lena's speech. Now I'm not going to, I want to now show you Mayor Bruce Rector's portion. He also voted no. Lena and Mayor Bruce Rector were the only two of the 5 council members who voted no. Where Bruce makes the startling admission that Scientology hasn't even explained why they want the damn street. Okay, so Bruce's part starts at 15725, 15725. And here we go.
This whole transaction is being proposed by Scientology. It's not being proposed by any of us or the city. This is their idea. They have had 2 lots for a long time, and they have had plans to develop an auditorium in one of these 2 lots for a long time, and have not done it, but could have years ago. And they don't need the street closed to develop this auditorium.
Notice Bruce said they don't need this street closed. to develop this auditorium. Now, perhaps there is some conflicting information that has been shared privately about their plans, Scientology's plans for this street. I, as I sit here right now, was not under the impression that they had actually told the city they were going to close the street. What they want to do is to own the street so that the city doesn't have any, there's no public easements there. But that is interesting. They certainly don't need to close the street in order to do their project. They certainly don't need to own the street in order to do their project either. Here we go.
And they don't need this street closed to develop this auditorium, and haven't needed it to develop this auditorium. So this is something that's being proposed by them. I'm not entirely clear on why they want the street closed, why that makes a difference, because as was pointed out, we don't have a site plan to see.
How is an initiative like selling Scientology a street going through when the mayor of Clearwater has just said that as the mayor of Clearwater, he still has no idea why Scientology needs this street? It's absolutely mind-blowing. By the way, Scientology, its representatives, perhaps even David Miscavige himself, has not been made entirely clear, met personally, individually, privately, one-on-one with each one of the council members, totally legal, totally allowed, and gives them, you know, the schmoozing and all the inside plans and their special fly-through videos and everything to basically convince them to vote yes. So the mayor, the meeting that Mayor Bruce Rector would have had with Scientology is the exact same meeting that the other 4 council members would have had, which means the 3 council members who voted yes also have no idea why Scientology needs to own or close this street in order to do their project, and they're voting yes anyway. It's absolutely incredible.
The street closed, why proposed by them. I'm not entirely clear on why they want the street closed, why that makes a difference, because as was pointed out, we don't have a site plan to see how they're going to build it out. But for me, that's very important. As has been said by a number here today, for me, it's not about the price. It's about how the building is going to look. It's about if the city is going to give up the street, then what is the city getting in return? And are we getting enough in return? And knowing that they could have developed this auditorium without closing the street for a long time and have it, I'm willing, like in any real estate transaction, you want to buy a piece of real estate, they have no obligation to buy it. We have no obligation to sell it. But if you're interested in buying it, then make us an offer and then we counter. And we have. 5 of us have wanted different things in return that we feel like can make it a win for the city to get those. And I believe majority, maybe 3 of you have what you think you need, but I don't. I don't have that. I have things other that I have asked for. I think the appearance of the building is very important to the future of downtown Clearwater. This building is on our gateway to Clearwater Beach. It's really a gateway to millions of visitors who come here and maybe want to come back to downtown Clearwater. So to me, how the building appears, where it's situated is very, very important. And I ask for some agreements on design, so on and so forth, but we don't even have a site plan yet. One of the first drawings I saw was attached to this agenda item.
He just said they don't even have a site plan for the project.
So I think it's the only way we would do this, city, from my seat, to get my vote, is to have in here an agreement, which I've still not seen yet, things that would value the city going forward. And those haven't been what I hear are going to be in the agreement. But I think it's, as Karen Cunningham came to the microphone earlier and said, you know, I don't think it's a good idea for us to piecemeal this. And I feel like before we even know what is in the agreement, before we even have an agreement presented us to consider, I feel like it's premature to vote to pass this ordinance.
Literally not a single thing in writing submitted by Scientology.
Without, particularly in my case, without feeling like there's going to be a written agreement versus agreement that I can vote for and support.
No written agreement at all.
So I think whatever we do there, again, if we're going to help them develop their building by closing the street, we need to have something in it in return for the city And a simple purchase price for me is just not enough. So
It really does seem like the council is under the impression that Scientology is going to close down the street.
I'm going to vote no on this agenda item because I just believe it's premature. And what I'm hearing by agreement we would have, that the terms that I wanted in don't appear to be what's going to be landing in the final agreement. So, and again, we don't have a site plan for this. I just think we're doing way too much, way too soon. And so I'll be voting on this particular agenda. Okay.
All right, there we go. Okay, this is absolutely incredible. I'm sure Scientology is a little embarrassed to have, literally all Scientologists were told to vote for Lena Teixeira. I'm sure they're a little embarrassed that she's voting no against them, but what do they care? Why do they care if she votes no? They got 3 other people voting yes. Like, doesn't particularly matter. Okay, so I have some other thoughts on this, but I'll give them in response to some of the starred questions that we have here, and then we'll wrap this one up. Wise Mama, Clearwater working meeting is going on now, and they will be doing a second reading on this issue in a couple days. Yes, there's a city council work session that's happening right now. That's literally just basically a prize. There's no interaction with the public at the work session. That's what the actual city council meeting is for. I think on the 3rd, Thursday, April 3rd, this week is when they'll be doing the second reading of this motion, I guess is what I'm calling it, this agenda item. I and a bunch of other people will be going and speaking at that meeting. You guys, these things though, they're just dog and pony shows. This is just a dog and a pony show. The 3 council members we're all, they don't show up to these meetings being like, well, let's see how the public feels about it, because that's going to determine how I vote. No, the fix is already in on this. At this point, my goal is just to humiliate them as much as possible through the process, so it can be used against them the next time they run for office. You've got Ryan Cotton, who voted yes. Scientologists were all told to vote for Ryan Cotton. You have David Albritton, happens to be Ryan Cotton's father-in-law. He voted yes. Scientologists were all told to vote for David Albritton. And then you've got Michael Menino, who voted yes. And I actually do not know if the Scientologists were told to vote for Michael Menino. But Michael Menino, in his speech that he gave for why he was voting yes, he was one of the more cheerful and enthusiastic yeses on why this is a great idea. And you have to work with Scientology and It's totally unbelievable. Stay Spiria. Is there a reason L. Ron Hubbard Hall is going to look like an airport other than lack of taste? I mean, Matt Elliott, haven't they been busy raising the funds for L. Ron Hubbard Hall for nearly 10 years? Also, haven't they also raised the funds? Yeah, it's probably been more like 15 or 20 years. They definitely already have all the money they need to make L. Ron Hubbard Hall. It's just like every other real estate project in Scientology. The real estate project exists as a fundraising tool, not because the real estate project is strategic in any way, shape, or form in the expansion of Scientology. The ideal org projects and the ideal orgs in general have actually resulted in contraction for Scientology in terms of membership and operational revenue. An ideal org sells less training and auditing after the ideal org opens than they did before the ideal org opened, and the staff get paid even less. But what it does do is it just allows David Miscavige to get a big old fat valuable asset on the balance sheet and to get his own personal statistic up so he can pay himself more cash bonuses. Okay, let's see. Itchy Thetans says, will they have a time frame within which to complete the L. Ruin Lives Hubbard Hall? The agreement to sell this street had some language like it's good for a certain number of years, and then for a few years after that, Scientology would have to pay an extra $300,000 per year to preserve basically their option to buy the street. But here's the deal. No matter what restrictions were put in place in the current agreement, history has already shown us that Scientology and the city will just come back together and restructure the agreement once it expires. Scientology is not in a rush to build this building at all. And I think they will continue to drag their feet on it. Abigail says, if Scientology hasn't already realized Lena Teixeira voted against them, then this video definitely will. Lena's in trouble. I mean, Scientology watches all the council meetings. They know exactly what's going to happen. And they probably would have known in advance that she wasn't going to be voting with them. Nero James, billion USP. They want ownership of the street so that they can call the police when we all protest in front of the building because it will be their property. Absolutely. Old Frizz, she spoke well here, made some very important points. Yes. So this is going to be one of the things that I'm going to focus on when I go to the city council meeting on Thursday, is that as public servants, as elected officials, they should actually care why Scientology wants the property. They should actually care that the only demonstrable, obvious reason for them to own this property is so that there are no public easements for protesters to stand on. If they don't need the property to build the project, then why do they need the property? And for these elected officials to be voting yes, without Scientology explaining why it's strategic for them. In other words, if the elected officials were to be supporting this initiative when the driving motivation behind the initiative is to restrict constitutionally protected activities such as protesting, that is a huge problem. That's going to be one of my main focuses when I speak at the meeting. Definite trouble source. We have Erica. Erica is, of course, the one who was just arrested this past week in downtown Clearwater for not standing where a police officer wanted her to stand and not wanting to identify herself. Erica says, do we know if the sidewalks are included in the street purchase? It feels like the sidewalks will remain an easement, but they will use planters or the like to make it difficult for protesters. That is really an excellent question for us to ask at the meeting. Now, the problem with asking questions at the meeting is they don't let you ask questions. It's not a question and an answer session. They typically just simply do not answer questions. It's a public comment section on the agenda item, but it is not a Q&A. So, but we will have to incorporate that point that it actually is relevant. And by the way, they don't have to answer questions, but they can if they choose to. So after you finish your 3 minutes and you say whatever you said, they can chime in. Because the truth is, if there are going to be public easements, no, I remember them talking about it. I remember them talking about even getting rid of the utility easements. This is going to be Scientology's private property. They're going to be relocating city utility easements at some point in the future. So, but anyway, we do need to get the subject addressed. Absolutely. Ewan Marshall, couldn't Scientology just make it gated and only allow people they choose once they own it? Of course they could. Of course they could. But like, it's a street, right? So to have that, there's another comment that I saw here, something about the valeting. I thought I saw a comment start about valeting. Maybe not. I saw a comment that basically the possibility that they're going to close down the street, Scientologists would be able to drive onto the street and valet. But how would they drive onto the street if it's closed? There's no way for the Church of Scientology to know whether a car coming down the street belongs to a Scientologist or not. And I want to go, how do I hide this? Okay, I want to go back to this map here, if I can find it. Okay, let's look at this one more time. Franklin Street to the north, that is a wide open public street. Court Street to the south, that is a wide open public street. There's no way to just identify whether a car belongs to a Scientologist or not. Closing down this street defeats the point of even having the street in front of the building, unless there's something I'm totally missing. Like, look, you got a street in front of the building. You clearly want cars to be able to pull up to it. You clearly want cars to be able to pull up to it, even if it's just really to do valet. But again, even if you're going to do valet, cars still have to be able to turn onto the street. And if cars can turn onto the street, there's no way to be like, no, only a Scientologist-owned car can turn onto the street. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think they're going to close it down. I think they're just going to say, you're not allowed to protest here because it's private property. But these are questions that we will ask on Thursday. Nero says, guess who isn't going to be reelected by her space overlords next election? So I'll tell you what, the only reason that she like if she were to run again, she could probably be easily defeated by most people. But Scientologists were only told to vote for her really because she was running against me. So it'll be interesting. I've heard that maybe Lena's not going to run for re-election. I don't know about that. I feel like she voted this way probably so that she could use it as a feather in her cap for when she did run, if she did choose to run for re-election, but we'll see what happens. CO Bilf, good to see you. The one guy was like, they made a cool video. Unbelievable idiocy. Yeah, Ryan Cotton was like, if everyone else could see the video I saw, everyone else would like the project too. He also said, I asked Scientology if they would come and show the video to the public, and they said no, but I wish they would listen to me and show you guys the video. Or Ryan, you could say to them, you could use it as leverage and be like, I like the project. If you show the video, I will vote yes. If you don't show the video, I will vote no. Like, have some balls. Have some balls. Stand for something other than being a Scientologist cheerleader. Pocono Pluck, the vote is a done deal. So technically, the vote's not a done deal. I think, meaning, okay, legally speaking, there's going to be a second reading of the motion. What I don't know is, are they going to vote for it again? Do they have to vote for it again? Or is it just a second reading for some sort of procedural thing? I don't know. I say it's a done deal because the fix is already in. The votes are already there. Legally speaking, it may not be a done deal. So let's show up. Let's humiliate them. Let's embarrass them. I would say let's educate them, but they already know everything I'm saying in this video. These council members have lived in Clearwater their entire lives. Michael Menino is someone I know personally. Bruce Rector is someone I know personally. David Albritton is someone I know personally. The people who voted yes are not ignorant to Scientology. They've just been wooed and schmoozed and safe pointed and by Scientology, and they're doing Scientology's bidding for no publicly beneficial reason. It's Just Me says they're doing what the Mormons did in Salt Lake. Bonus for them. Protesters are not allowed on it. Totally Jersey says money talks. No other reason to vote for it without all of the needed information. Don Perisseau. I would get as many names on a petition to say no. Also have tons of people show up at the next meeting. Yeah, I really would like as many people as possible to come and join us at the next meeting. Let me see. I think I can give the actual time for this thing. Give me 1 second. Who did I send this to? Oh, here it is. Thursday, April 3rd, the meeting goes from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. I do not know at what point on the agenda this item will be raised, but that's the information that I've got for now. Okay, guys, that is it for right now. Much more to come later today. I thank you all, as always, for hanging out with me. Thank you to everyone who watches until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.